welcome back. I'm Mary Jo, also known as Sojo. This is my channel where I talk about all my quilty stitchy things. And this is my weekly update number 89. And it is December 1st, 2024. So it's been a week and let's see what I did this week. But before we do that, I did release my day one video from my advent calendar that my husband curated for me. So we'll be doing that for the first 24 days of December. Go take a look, see what he picked out. It's kind of fun. All right, so the majority of the week I spent making this quilt behind me. Now, I used a tutorial from Missouri Star called Grandma May's Economy Blocks, and there is 324 small economy blocks in there. Now, this quilt took me twice as long as what I was expecting. I was expecting I could get this done in 4 or 5 days. Well, it took me, I think, about 10. Now, those economy blocks, making those economy blocks, I had also considered using some paper piecing pads to see if that would go any quicker, but I don't think it would. And plus, I needed 324 of those economy blocks. That's a lot of paper piecing pads, so I didn't use that. But there it is. So then the 4 economy blocks came together with some sashing and a cornerstone in each box, which made 81 blocks. So this quilt is 9 by 9 and it finishes out to about 83 by 83. And I did put a 6-inch border all the way around. We'll go ahead and take a closer look at everything in just a second. Also, I did do mine a little bit different than what Jenny does, as I usually do. I usually put just a little bit difference in there. My economy blocks I made a little bit bigger just to trim them down because when I did my test blocks, I was kind of cutting it close. So I made those a little bit bigger and then trimmed them down to the correct size. Also, the white sashing between all the blocks and the cornerstones, I made my sashing just a little bit wider, just because I think it's easier to cut. So, and then the inner border was the same size as those sashings, and then the outer border I made just a little bit bigger than what Jenny did on Missouri Star, and I ended up with a quilt that was about 83 by 83. I think in the tutorial for Missouri Star, I think theirs was about 77 by 77, I think, somewhere around there. So there it is. Let's go take a look at it. So we're going to start up at the top, looking at the border all the way around. I know I got it hanging kind of crooked there. That's okay. Looking at that 6-inch border. I'll come over to the middle. And then back up. Now, I did make this using a jelly roll as part of the What Will I Make series this past week. And I still have quite a few extra pieces from my jelly roll that I could have used to make, well, that's not part of my jelly roll, that was part of my background, that I could have used to make a bigger quilt, make more blocks. I also considered using this, which this is actually from a different line, Flowers for Freya, but it's still by Lindsay Call McCrae, that I thought would have worked in there as well. However, after making the 324 economy blocks into 18 of those Grandma May's economy block quilts, I think I was done. I was glad I didn't decide to make more. We were good, but I still had a lot left over. Oop, that's not from that quilt either. But as you see, I still have a lot of pieces of that jelly roll left over that I could have made more blocks if I wanted. Okay, so what else did I do? Well, I've been working on those leaders and enders projects because I like to use leaders and enders when I sew. A lot of people use leaders and enders just because when they first sew, it sucks the fabric down into, you know, the little hole in the plate. Well, my machine doesn't do that, but it does tend to become unthreaded every time I cut the thread. So I don't like have to constantly thread my machine. So I tend to use either leaders and enders when I sew. So I started doing leaders and enders projects. And I haven't shown this in quite a while, but my husband coworker had given him some of these Crown Royal bags to make into a quilt, and here's where I am on that quilt. And this has been my Leaders and Enders project. But you may, if you've seen those videos, you may have seen me sewing this, wondering what that dark gray, orange, and green thing is. That's what it is. This is my Leaders and Enders quilt. So I've got 3 rows. I need to make 1 more row, which I'm working on. And so it will be basically 16 blocks, 4 by 4. And then I'm going to put a smaller border all the way around. And then after that, I'm going to have some more of these stars I'm going to put in 4 corners with a border around it. And then I'm going to put yet another border after that to hopefully make it a bigger size quilt. We'll see. That's my plan. Plans can change, as I always say, but we'll see how it goes. But that is what it's looking like so far. Now the blocks for that 4th row have basically been sewn. I just have to sew all those blocks to each other and add it on. And then I can start doing all those borders I was talking about, because I have already made the 4 stars that I'm going to put in the corner. The corners. So I have been working on that. Now, I did get a comment, I don't remember if it was last week, this coming week or the last week, that said my hobby isn't sewing, my hobby is pinning, which I thought was kind of funny. And I must say, I agree, my hobby is pinning. I love to pin. And as I commented, yes, but sometimes I have to sew because I run out of pins and I need more pins to put into fabric, as was the case when I was making this quilt. Like I said before, I like to work with things in a rotation. And I have, I don't know, about 14 projects or so I work on at a time. And I'll go to the sewing machine, I sew everything through, and then I come, press, pin, and then I put it back to the rotation and pull out my next quilt to work on. So when I go to pull out my quilts, I've got everything pinned, and I just go to the sewing machine and I zoom through. Well, I kept running out of pins with all those economy blocks that I was pinning. So I had to have a couple other projects to work on that I had to run through the sewing machine just to get the pins to put more pins in my economy blocks. So one of those projects was if I can get the picture here, this Mirage quilt. That I had been working on. I remember showing this on my Rediscover My Stash series, and a lot of people had said they wanted it done, so I have been working on that. And here, I'll see if I can show you some. These are like the first 4 rows that are coming together. Now, I do have some pins between the 2 and 3rd row that I have to sew, but those are the 4th. The first 4 rows, and here is the next 4 rows. These are the next 4 rows. And again, they've got pins in between some of those. So it's coming along. Now, as I'm working on this is how I am tackling this project. I basically went through and I numbered all of these rows, 1 through whatever it ended up being. And I am sewing together 8 of these rows at a time. So I'll go through and do 8. And then the next time I go to the sewing machine, I went, when I said I'm sewing 8, I mean like making these strips, all these strips. So then the next time it is, I will sew 8 more, plus the first 8 I did, I will sew like 1 and 2, and then sew 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6, and then 7 together, which gives me those 2 first. And then as I come back, next time I go, I will sew the rows 1, 2, and then sew that to 3, 4, and so on, and all the way down, and then I'll add 8 more rows. And that's how I work on it. I know people probably think it's silly, but that's just how I work on it and how I like to do things. Now, when you are working in rows like this, if you sew these rows all in the same directions all the time, sometimes they can get a bit curved. So when I sew my 1 and 2, rows 1 and 2, I usually sew with that smaller numbered row on the bottom. So when I'm sewing like 1 and 2, I will sew with 1 on the bottom, 2 on the top. Same thing with 3 and 4. I will sew with 3 and 4, 3 on the bottom and 4 on the top. However, then when I start combining them to, like when I'm sewing the 1 and 2 to the row 3 and 4, I will put the 3 and 4 on the top, on the bottom, and the 1 and 2 on the top. Same things with 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. I'll put the 7, 8 on the bottom and 5 and 6 on top. And I will do that until the whole quilt is completed. And that way it makes those rows, when you sew them in alternating directions, and it helps to kind of prevent those from curving when you get straight rows sewn like that. It's the same thing when you like do like a jelly roll race or something like that. It kind of helps. So now that I've confused everybody and explained that, that's just how I work. So I've been doing that. Okay, now let me show you the other project I had to pull pins out of to work on this. Hold on. Now the other project I worked on was this new Bedford quilt. Now this is from Free Spirit, and this was a free pattern I had got a while ago. But of course I'm not using those fabrics, so those black and white, so you can't really see the fabrics anyway. I'm using my own. So here's kind of the center. I've got this little block going on here, and then I have a bunch of flying geese I had to make. So I had a bunch of pins in this that I had to go sew all those things together so I could use the pins to put in there. So I made some of these flying geese are all done to go with it. And then I've only got part of the flying geese done on the next few blocks. Then I've got these section of flying geese. As you see, I still have to sew this square. And then we have these flying geese, which is kind of the opposite of that. And let's see. We got a bunch of different sections of flying geese here. Let's see where they all end so I don't get them confused because I got them stacked up here. I got this section of flying geese. And I got these flying geese. And then we got kind of the opposite flying geese. And this is the last little section of flying geese. So I worked on all that. After I got that quilt topped, I could go ahead and put pins in here to finish these flying geese. But anyway, I did think that comment was funny about, excuse me, my hobby being pins, because I couldn't agree more. I love to pin. It is my favorite part about sewing. I don't know why that is. It just is. All right, so that is everything I worked on as far as quilting and sewing. Let's look at the other things. So I also managed to stuff and sew these two pillows together. So this was some embroidery I had done quite a while ago, and I just made them into pillows. So I did these this week as well, which I kind of discovered this embroidery that I forgot about when I was doing that Rediscover My Stash. All right, let's move on to cross stitch. So this week I've got my winner for my November 9-pack series from Primrose Cottage Stitches. And my winner is Steve Schumacher 5470. I'm sorry if that's not how you pronounce your last name, but it's Steve Schumacher and it's spelled STEVESCHUMACHER 5470. So I just need you to email me at sewjoquilts@gmail.com where you want me to send this to, and I will send this off to you. My email is also always in the description box down below. So that means we get to give away my last little pillow, which is Christmas themed for December. This is the last one. So let's see. If you want to win this pillow, what can we say? Let's just say presents. So PRESENTS. There you go. I love to get lots of Christmas presents. There you go. All right. Just comment presents down below and you'll be entered, and then I'll pick a winner next week. And Steve, you do have a week to email me back, and if I don't hear with you within a week when I do my next weekly update, I'll just give it to the next winner. So please email me and I'll send it off to you. All right. Oh, this is laying here. I forgot to mention, this is going to be my binding for that quilt back there. So, and that is in the line, and some of that blue, I don't know if you can see it from this far away, but that will be my binding for that Grandma May's Economy blocks. And that jelly roll, that line of fabric was called Feed Sacks Good Works by Lindsay McCrae. All right, so into stitching. Let me pull this out. I'm always amazed at the amount of things I can fit on this table when I do my weekly updates, because it gets kind of crazy. I pull lots of things out. All right, so I've now been working on the Simply Sayings cross stitch from Little Stitch Girl, and this is April. It says shake your bunny tail. And here's where I'm at. I didn't get a lot of progress done this week, like I said, because the majority of my time was all spent on that quilt. It did take me quite a bit of time. There we go. There we are. Shake your bunny tail. This is stitched on 14 count Ada. I think this is Peaceful Purple from Witchell. There we are. It's almost done. Now, I would have been farther along on this, but this bunny, as I was stitching it, I had got all the way over, just working on starting this second end when I realized I made a mistake back here in the U, so I had to rip all that out and redo it. So I would have been closer to being done, but that's okay. Then, for my crochet, I have been working on this top called Progressive Tunic. It's from the Curvy Girl crochet book. Let me find the picture. This is what it looks like. It's like a tank top, so it doesn't have sleeves, but there it is. Now mine is not striped. I'm doing basically, well, all one solid color, but I'm holding two different colors together while I'm doing it. It just doesn't have the stripes. Now, I'd already shown you last week that I'd had the back all done. Just gotta get it. There it is. I've got it upside down. So this is the back, and this is up where my neck shaping is, and my shoulders. And there's where that is. So that's the back. I haven't got much progress on this, but this is the start of the front. I mean, that's really all the farther I've gotten. so not much. I am using this crochet thread. I'm using these 2 different colors of gray, that lighter and darker, and it's coming together to form that. And I do have my stitch markers all in there. There we go. So as far as diamond painting goes, I did make just a little bit of progress, but not much, so I'm not even going to bother to show that today. Okay, so that is everything that I've worked on this week. Be sure to check out my advent calendar every day. It's kind of fun to see what my husband got me. All right, till next time.